Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started then. We've got a dozen or so people here, and if they filter in, um, that's okay. We'll try and catch them up later on. So I'll wait till you close those doors and come on in. There's plenty of time. Okay, so to start out, I'd just like to get an idea of who's out there in the audience. How many people are in education, like collegiate level? Okay, couple. How many people are in like K-12 education? Administrators, trainers, okay. How about industry? Okay, couple from industry. And who am I missing? Nonprofits, that was the other one. Okay, so we got a couple of those. Okay, so it's really a good mix, so I kind of need to cover like all aspects of this, and that's okay. So, just to introduce myself, my name is Allison Heapsch, and I'm a chemist at 3M. I work in drug delivery systems, which means I work on things like patches and inhalers. And that's my day job. But what I do for fun is twist, and I've been doing this for quite a long time. So, to start out, I just want to tell you a story, and we need to go back a little ways. Let's go back, say, 11 years, back when I was 18. Ooh, laughing. You're doing math, I can tell. That's the problem with STEM people, is that they can do the math. I'm 29, we're going to go with that. So, back when I was choosing a major for college, I had no idea what to do. When I grew up, I was the first generation to go to college in my family. Everybody that I had contact with around me, none of them had college degrees. The people that I knew who went to college, well, I knew they were doctors, and I knew I didn't really want to be a doctor. There were lawyers. Definitely did not want to be a lawyer. That's my next stop after this, actually, so not a lot of fun, at least for me. Some people love it. So doctors, lawyers, bankers, no. Teachers. So I thought, you know what, I could be a teacher. And what am I good at in school? Well, I got good grades in math, so let's go for math. And eventually, once I got to college, I picked up chemistry as well. So I've got double majors in math and chemistry for education. I started out as a teacher. I taught 5 years in high school, teaching a little bit of math, but mostly chemistry and freshman level chemical science. And that whole time, because I really didn't have a whole lot of exposure to what a chemist did. You know, you get some in college, but really it's that college coursework. It's not a lot of broad industry experience. At least I didn't get that where I went to college. So kids would come up to me, when am I ever going to use this again? And that's when I was really glad that I was teaching more chemistry than math, because with math, I could not answer that question to save my life. I mean, I had a couple of career fields you could go into where you're going to use math. At least with the chemistry, I could talk about like household chemistry. You know, with just about any topic, I could come up with something quick and easy that I could whip off. But honestly, I knew that that really wasn't doing it. So I was stuck in this place. I don't know anything about what careers are like out there in the STEM field. And when my students ask, why am I doing this? I couldn't answer that question. Well, as it turned out, I was looking for a summer job one summer. I had already applied to a couple of jobs at 3M. You're wondering how I made this leap from being a teacher to being a 3M. That's going to come. I had applied to a couple of jobs earlier that spring. I happened to be at a graduation party for one of my students, one of the students that I knew best. And this student's mom said, hey, we've got this opening in the TWIST program. This was the chair back then, back in 2002. She said, we had a teacher drop out yesterday. You looking for a summer job? Why don't you come fill in? It'll be a great experience for you. And she had been trying to talk me into it for a couple of years. And I always said, no, I don't think I want to do that this year. I don't know why I said that. That was the best thing that could ever happen to me. The next week, there I was in a 3M lab. I was working with analytical chemists in the pharmaceutical division, right next door to the division I'm in now, at least it was then. And I was actually doing the job. And I was working with people that closely, that I could get a sense for what they were doing, how they were using math and chemistry in their lives. And there were a number of other things about the TWIST program which showed me even a broader range of careers and fields than that, which we'll get to in a bit. At the end of that program, I was ready to totally go back and tell my students, this is what you can do with a degree in math or science. When am I ever going to use this? Well, I met all these different people, and I could come up with all sorts of different examples. These people use STEM every day. Well, as it turns out, I never did go back, but I was absolutely ready to, and I was assuming I was going to go back all the way up through halfway through this program, just about up to the last day, in fact. But as it turns out, so coincidentally, I ran into the right person at a party who set me up with an opportunity next week for a teacher who had dropped out. The teacher who had dropped out had been assigned to the 2 people who had my resume on their desk. We've got several thousand scientists and engineers at 3M. I ended up with those 2. So I ended up staying. Absolutely not the point of the program, to the best of my knowledge. We've been at this since 1984, so 30 years. I'm the only one who's ever been hired on. I always make sure the teachers know that. So, in fact, I told them that on last Friday. We met our teachers for this year the first time. That's not the point of the program, but I was ready to go back, energized about STEM teaching, and ready to tell them this is how you could use it. So that's why I do it. Once I was hired on, I said I need to get involved in that program, and I have been ever since. Spent a number of years on the committee. This is my 3rd year as co-chair, and we've got a new crop of teachers coming in just, I think, about 6 or 8 weeks. We met them last Friday. They seem fantastic. We got to connect them with the host that they'll be working with over the summer. So what does TWIST stand for? It's Teachers Working in Science and Technology. That's our acronym. And as I said, we've been at this for 30 years. So what that means is everything that you're going to hear, it's kind of complex. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot to learn. And it's probably something that's rather daunting to set up, but it's definitely doable. And I have the benefit of having it mostly established by the time I got to this role. I've had a role in shaping it over the past decade, but by and large, the foundation of it was already in place. So here's what we do. We bring teachers to 3M Center for 6 weeks. And it's during the summer, so it starts, we give them about a week off after they get done with their school year. So it's 6 weeks from mid-June through the end of July. And the teachers are paired with a 3M scientist or engineer. And we've kept the number of people the number of teachers at 3M Center at 26 for a number of years. It's just a good number that works for us. And 3M is such a broad place, like I said, a couple of thousand scientists and engineers just at 3M Center alone, that's a good number. That's the number that we can support. We get that many really good quality proposals each year. The teachers work on a real R&D project, so they're actually doing research on something meaningful. It's not just busy work, it's not just clerical work. They're not just an extra pair of hands, although they are that as well. They're really working on something meaningful. The hosts have to submit proposals to the committee, and we really take a careful look and select only the best ones and the ones that are going to fit well with teachers, things that teachers are going to be able to achieve at and excel at, and that are going to be appropriately challenging. A lot of times the hosts will be looking at those projects thinking, oh gosh, they're never going to be challenged by this, they're going to be bored by it. But as committee members and as a former teacher myself, I can look at it with those eyes and say, no, that is really going to be challenging for somebody coming from that world, and it might be easy for you. And by the end of the 6 weeks, they're going to be ready for another challenge if you were to keep them on. But for the level they're at and where they're at in their lives, this is going to be appropriately challenging. So we pick good ones. And we pay them $4,500 at this point. That's our current stipend, which actually works out to be pretty decent for a 6-week summer program. And then they still have the remainder of August left to do their work. So, and 6 weeks seems to be a really good length of time. In surveying our teachers and our hosts, there's always a couple every year who wish, gosh, I just wish I had another week or another 2 weeks. And usually that has to do with experiments that didn't work out quite as you planned. That's one of the key things teachers learn. Experiments generally don't work out as you plan, whereas in your classroom they always do because you set them up that way. Or at least when I was teaching, that's what happened. Sometimes they're kind of trying to stretch out the time a little bit, and they find other things for them to do. There's always plenty of things we can involve them in other projects, but by and large, 6 weeks is really a perfect length of time. As I said before, I didn't know the whole broad range of STEM careers and different things that you could do. And my experience in drug delivery systems showed me a pretty narrow range of what was possible. So one thing that we do to broaden that is we've developed a good series of tours and seminars that the teachers attend. It's a Tuesday, Thursday lunchtime session, and their hosts know going into it that, yes, you get them for 36 hours a week, but we get them for the other 4. And we take them on all sorts of different places around 3M Center. So for example, we've got an anechoic chamber, super quiet room if you've ever seen those. You walk in there, I could stand and shout into the wall. You could all be sitting here, you wouldn't be able to hear me. Really amazing. The teachers love that one. We take them. Exactly. If only they could have that. We take them to various labs around campus. The beauty of 3M is that we've got so many different technologies. It's like working at, a conglomeration of maybe 30 different companies, just because there's such a broad range of things that we can show them. And so we take them around and show them many, many different things. We talk about intellectual property. We talk about scaling up from lab scale up to manufacturing scale and what's involved in that. We show them our specialty chemicals and films, different software and sensors that we have. Sometimes we'll go in the weathering center. Our tours change a bit from year to year. That kind of keeps it fresh and interesting for all of us, but we've got a really good set of people that we can draw on to give us tours and show us their areas. Additionally, we have manufacturing plant representation, and we've got another research and development center in Austin, Texas. And the beauty of that is they had heard about our program. The word was starting to get around to plants, and people started asking, well, can we do this where we're at? And yeah, we said, sure, we can. So one of the areas that I started out on when I was first on the TWIS committee was expanding the outreach of our plant sites. And so what we do is we have teachers that are hosted currently at 10 plants, or there are 10 placements around the country. We've got teachers starting this year in Connecticut, 4 in Texas. We've got a number in Wisconsin, a couple of other places in Minnesota. We have hosted people in Missouri, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio. So we really have teachers in a number of our communities. We also have a poster session. And as I say in this slide, 3M innovation is really at the intersection of technologies. So we culminate the whole process on the last day or the second to the last day, where the teachers get to share with each other what they've been working on and share with other scientists and researchers at 3M. And the way that we choose to do that is in a poster session. Now we've had teachers say, well, couldn't I just give a presentation to the group, a short presentation, maybe a PowerPoint, maybe a little lesson, because that's what they're used to as teachers. And what I like to tell them is, our poster session is our way of not just allowing you to share what you've learned with each other, but it's also a way for you to learn how we do innovation at 3M. Poster sessions are really common. In fact, there's a big 2-day one going on right now for the entire technical community in the company. And the way that it works is you'll put together a poster of what you're working on that you want to highlight. And I'll be walking around, and so I'm in drug delivery systems, and I might walk past somebody in an automotive division who's got a really cool technology that's going into her project. And so I'm looking at their technology on that poster, and all of a sudden I get this thought, but if I took that film and put it into my transdermal product, and all of a sudden I've now got a connection. So I'm not going to find out everything about that film right now, but what I am going to do is I'm going to get your card. I'm going to find out who you are. We're going to email. We're going to get together later. And it all happened because we happened to run into each other at this poster session. And so what we like to do with the teachers is show them how that all works, show them how collaboration works, and show them how 3M really uses the huge breadth of technologies we have to cross-pollinate. And so that's a good key learning for them. Then in addition to that, we also require them to have one poster, and that's a little example that I've got shown on the slide. One poster has to be, how are you going to take this back to your classroom? So it really causes them to think about, what am I going to use? What lessons can I take back? And there's a wide range. It all depends where the teachers are at and what professionally, as well as the placement they've had, what kinds of things that they can learn. And so they put together one poster on that they can then take back to their classroom. They can share with other teachers in their building. They can share with their students. So how does this whole program work? Because there's a number of people who are probably out there thinking, how could I do this in my company? Or how could I get this started with a similar organization? So first of all, we have a volunteer committee that runs it. It's been volunteer from the very beginning. It was a volunteer grassroots effort 30 years ago. And we do have one administrative assistant who is shared by the various 3M science encouragement programs. We have some other programs like Visiting Wizards, and we've got a program for St. Paul High School students. We've got career speaker program. So we've got a variety of things. The administrative assistant works with all of us. So she's our one paid employee. As far as funding, the funding comes from 3M Gives, which is our community affairs organization, working with the 3M Foundation. And the way that it works is the 3M Foundation provides a grant to the Minnesota High Tech Association. You may have seen Tim Barrett around here. He's who we work with at Minnesota High Tech. We provide a grant to them, and they administer the program. So the teachers are actually employed by Minnesota High Tech. They have an outsourced HR function. So we work with their outsourced HR company to handle all of the employment paperwork for the teachers and all of their payroll and things like that. So we're not handling any paychecks. All we need to keep track of is did the teachers work a certain number of days, the number of days that they were required, and if not, we can adjust up and down a little bit. It really takes a lot of the pressure off of us. It's relatively straightforward to get it all done in that regard. Then in addition, we also have corporate R&D services. There are some incidentals that go on throughout the year. We give the teachers a number of luncheons. As I said, we just had them in on Fridays, so we provide them with lunch that day. They get to, after we have them for orientation and paperwork and things like that in the morning, then we send them off with their hosts to meet with their hosts and find out what they'll do during the summer. And so we buy them lunch then. We have a picnic, we have a final luncheon. So those things are covered by our corporate research and development services organization. It's a corporate staff group. And so as it says there, the teachers aren't 3M employees. And I know that for a lot of companies, and 3M included, that could be a real concern as far as the various laws around employing somebody for 6 weeks. So essentially they're contract workers, which changes the field and is pretty important if you're interested in such things. So the real question is who wins? And I was looking around out on the papers that are posted right out on the railing, and I noticed that there was one person, I believe from General Mills, who asked the question, so what are the barriers and what are the benefits? What are the mutual benefits that allow everybody to experience success with this program? And so obviously the teachers win, and what we're really trying to do is we're trying to reach the students by reaching the teachers. So they get to answer that question, when will we use this? We're giving them good solid ideas for that. As I mentioned before, they're experiencing a broad range of STEM careers, so they really get that sense for what you can do with this. And we get those teachers re-energized about STEM. Teachers end up leaving and go, wow, this is so exciting. I am so ready to go back, and I have to tell my students about this. And so they're really, a number of teachers remark that on the exit surveys, that has really helped them. And of course, they get the stipend, and that's a pretty decent benefit for a teacher during the summer. As far as the hosts, so what's maybe a little harder to quantify, and the question that I think a lot of people have is, what's going to make me, as a 3M researcher, want to take this on? So I told you I'm involved from a committee standpoint, and that's what I'm passionate about. And if you talk to our different committee members, most of them are going to have a reason that's not exactly that one, but is something a lot like that. They're just driven, for the the ability to give back. But as a 3M host scientist, what's in it for you? Well, what you get is you get extra help on some project. So you may have heard of 15% time. Everybody heard of that before? Where 3M researchers get to spend 15% of their time working on a project of their choosing. And the corporation also provides various grants to help with that. You can apply if you've got some kind of a new product idea or new technology idea. You can jump out of your own division, your own work group, and apply to the corporation and say, I've really got this great idea. And there are 2 different programs, so where the funding comes from kind of depends. But you can get a chunk of money that you can use to buy equipment or do whatever. So having a twist teacher can be a really good way to get some early start on a program, some project. So maybe you got the funding from over here, you get a teacher to help you actually work on it, and you can try out some new idea. You can kind of piece together different resources you've got at 3M to maybe help develop your idea to get it to a stage where you can then take it to management and say, look, we could do this. So that's one pretty common use. I have actually hosted teachers before along with my supervisor. It's been kind of a joint effort. And some of the projects we've had teachers working on, for example, one summer there was a new piece of equipment we wanted to bring in. But we weren't exactly sure if it was going to work with our compounds that we were working with. So we arranged with the company to bring in a demonstration unit for the summer. And while it was there, we set up the teacher with a variety of experiments to run on this. And by the end of the summer, we were able to make a decision as to whether or not we wanted to buy. That was going to be resources that one of our normal lab people who already have other jobs would have had to take time out to do. But in this case, we had somebody extra who could just come in and get started on that. And it was really challenging for the teacher. My own project was fairly similar to that back when I was a teacher. So there's a lot of different ways that the host scientist will use the teacher. And again, we look for really good proposals, things that seem like, yeah, you could come in, learn something fairly quickly and get up to speed, do some meaningful work, and hopefully wrap it up at the end of 6 weeks or at least get to a good stopping point. The other big benefit to the hosts, and this is really a big one, is that it's free to the hosts. So as I said before, 3M Gives and the 3M Foundation makes a grant to Minnesota High Tech to administer this. So the money is coming from the 3M community giving area and the 3M Foundation. So it's not coming from the individual departments. And that's really big because that's not a barrier. I don't have to go, if I've got my great project idea, I don't have to go to my department manager and say, by the way, could you give us $4,500 more? I don't have to try and make that case. It's already there. So that's a big hurdle, and it's one that we've overcome. And of course, the hosts. Our hosts are really passionate about giving back to the community by supporting STEM education. Just like with the people who volunteer to be on our committee, our hosts also have that same drive. So why would 3M do it? Well, there's a lot of different reasons, and it really depends what hat you're wearing at 3M and what part of the program that you're involved in. So first of all, 3M has a strong commitment to STEM education. That's one of our pillars of our community giving and one of the areas that we support. So this all fits in as part of that. It also allows us to build relationships with local schools. One partnership we have is with the St. Paul Public Schools, and so we work closely with them, and actually we recruit from a variety of schools from around the Twin Cities, and then of course our plant sites find local school districts as well and partner with those. But this allows us to build that relationship. We also need students to be thinking about STEM careers. You've probably heard the phrase, attract and retain talented employees. This feeds into that. We need to be making sure that we're developing our next generation of STEM employees. And our goal in this case is to energize those teachers so that they go back to their students excited and ready to encourage their students to do the same. And then additionally, to get those students hearing about 3M in particular, especially the ones around here in Minnesota. If you talk to our talent solutions people, they'll tell you that it can be a challenge to bring people in from other parts of the country to Minnesota. Go figure. It was 19 degrees when I turned on the radio this morning, so that's the barrier. They say it's way easier to keep the people we already have here. So if we can encourage local kids to go into STEM careers, and 3M is right at the top of their mind because their teacher's been talking about 3M, that's not such a bad thing for us. And of course, it builds goodwill in the 3M communities where we're located. Of course, that's true around here. We've got a number of ways that we do that at 3M Center. But that last point is really a big motivator for management at our plants, really supporting this and really encouraging their engineers that they have at the plants to take part. A lot of our plant site participation has come because plant managers and community affairs people have really said, you know, is there a way we can reach out to our community, and what are some ways we can do that? So 3M Gives and our community affairs contacts will come to us and say, could you go talk to somebody in Connecticut because really they would like to build some bridges? Or, you know, we've got this new acquisition here, can you talk to them? So that's what 3M's getting out of it. And lastly, I just want to show you a quick video. You'll see one of our teachers from last summer. Let me jump out for that. Let's try that again. I might have to skip that part.
Has had a long history of focus around the lines of STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. It's very important for us as a corporation because we are science and technology based. Fundamentally, it is a significant concern that we aren't